Awesome. Great. Perfect.
It's a great pleasure to introduce this next speaker. I've known Mark for several years now. This guy is a machine when it comes to building this business. He and his lovely wife, we have several children that are neighbors, as a matter of fact. Been business partners with them for years. And one of the things I can talk about Mark is there's several things I can say about him, but I will say he's one of the hardest working guys I know. And he is one of the most systems-driven people in teaching how we can get this business bigger than our individual results. And I can't wait to get this leader up on the stage to share with us his training, his thoughts, and his ideas. Please make some noise for Mr. Mark Haas.
Thank you. Great job with the prayer, by the way. Thanks. That's awesome. Appreciate it. All right. Great. Super. Thank you very much. Great. Have a seat. Good deal. Have a seat. Thanks. All right. Well, I'm going to teach you a little bit about some specifics to help you move forward in the business a little bit. So how many people would like to figure out how to get their goals and dreams a lot faster? Right? Well, I'm going to get into some really quick details. My talk's really going to be called The Attitude of a Depth Driver. The Attitude of a Depth Driver. And the reason I was thinking about that, you know, our whole business, when Chris Brady talked about what's the one thing that you could focus on, what's that one thing you could get maniacal at? I have a hard time pronouncing that word. It's basically driving depth, right? That's the one thing that you could get really, really good at, and it could change your whole entire life. And so let's take a minute for about a concept called leadership. You know, in our business, what I love about it is the money goes to the leader. It doesn't go to the guy at the top, right? You can draw out the business, and you can basically have some depth here, and you can have some circles here. And this guy can be at the leader level, right? Which is what on the new income disclosure, it's about 60 grand, right? With all the bonuses and the cabs and all that stuff. This guy can be at the leader level, and this guy down here can be at the coordinator level, right? Right? He can be at the coordinator. You can have somebody at the leader level making 60 grand, somebody at the coordinator level. What's that number? 114? You guys, yeah, all right. Mr. Cheatham's got it memorized, right? Many of you guys out there got it memorized too. And so that's what I love about it. And so how do you end up in this situation where you can be any part of the team and you can be making any amount of money that you want to no matter what spot you're in? How do you get in that position? Well, basically, it's just who's going to be the leader. And think about the word leader for a minute. Think about it. What are some of the characteristics of a leader? Just throw some of them out. What would you say? Passion, integrity, serve, initiative, hunger, committed. What was that? Dreamer, teachable, example, loyal, selfless, honest. Now, name one of those things that you just mentioned that it's not an attitude. Right? They're all attitudes, right? Attitude of selfless, attitude of servant, attitude of teachable, attitude of, right? Every single one of those things are attitudes. And so as I was thinking about that, and I've heard people talk about leadership and draw them all out on the board and go into a big talk about each one of this, but being a leader is just having the right attitude. And so when it comes to building this business, if you can understand that the way to build the business is to have the attitude of a depth driver. And I'm going to talk a little bit about mentally what I might go through and what some of the leaders on the team probably go through when they decide, hey, I'm going to be the leader. I'd like to be the person that makes the money. It doesn't matter where I am in any spot of the chain there, so to speak, in depth. It has no bearing on anything. It's just the set of, I have the attitude, I'm going to be the leader, and here's what I do. And so I think mentally what happens is if you go through the depth pack, one of the CDs in there is called the 4 phases of depth, right? And what are the 4 phases? Does anybody know what they are? Get a grip, okay? What's the next one? Momentum. What's the next one? Sustain momentum. What's the next one? Explosive growth. All right, if you don't know all those, you want to get that depth back and you want to dig into it and get to the point where you have them memorized. But let's just start with number 1, get a grip. Well, get a grip. What's the best way to get a grip? Well, in the business, we've got this 5-step pattern, right? Make a list, contact, show the plan, follow through, rotate. Make a list, contact, show the plan, follow through, rotate. Rotate. And so there's a couple different ways to get a grip. So the first way might be get on the phone and make some calls yourself. The other way is if you've already got a team of people, maybe it's not necessary, if you've made a bunch of calls and put a bunch of people in depth, maybe it's not necessary that you get on the phone and make some more calls and sling some in there. Maybe it's necessary that you either call a business launch, or maybe you don't have enough people playing the game, and if you called a business launch, no one would show up. Because that's possible. You know, maybe it's a new team, you don't have the right culture, everybody's not playing the game, maybe you just pulled off a big squeeze, no one's coming to all those kind of things yet. And so the next best thing is to maybe go over and serve the people on your team. I remember Claude Hamilton said this. He said, "You'll never be blessed with the many until you're loyal with the few." Why would you want to bring a whole bunch more people into a business when you haven't helped the ones you've got understand how to do it? And so the next thing that you might want to do if you're in the get a grip stage is have the attitude that instead of telling people to book some calls and I'll come show the plan for you, you actually have to go over and role play with them. You actually have to help them make a names list. One of the things that you said about being a leader is serve. And so you might actually have to get off the couch or whatever it is that you might want to do, because this is hard for me sometimes. So anybody ever at home at night, and there's some days that you're at home at night and it's just driving you crazy. You're like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be at home. I should be out showing a plan. I don't know who to show the plan to, though. Anybody ever do this? But you know what you could do? You could go look on your little LOS and you could see who's on the team there. Maybe somebody that you met, maybe nobody you even met before. And you call them up and you say, hey, how's it going? Introduce yourself. Call them up. They don't have to be someone you put in the business. They don't have to be someone you've even ever met before. Call them up. Make a little friend over the phone. Say, hey, I just noticed you're part of the team. We're really excited to have you and stuff like that. Me and my wife, Rita, we'd love to come over and connect with you a little bit, get to know you, and just hang out. And then all of a sudden now you're in someone's house and you're hanging out with them. And you find out what their goals and dreams are. And then you can get on the phone. Possibly, you can teach them the role play maybe. That might be the right time. Sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes they're not ready for that, but at least you're in the house now and you got a friend. See, I used to go through the business where a lot of times that process would drive me nuts because I was almost like, I got to show a plan right now. I got to show the plan right now. And if I wasn't showing the plan right now, then it almost would paralyze me. But you can put yourself in a position to set it up so that you have several plans to show later on. If sometimes you'll just go and hang out and make a friend. And so sometimes getting a grip might be you just have the attitude that you're going to serve someone on your team, and you might not necessarily get anything accomplished that night, except that you're building a friendship. Because once they know, like, and trust you, then it's a lot easier for them to introduce you to their friends. But if they don't know, like, and trust you, then they're not going to introduce. This is the Bob Burg book called Likeability Factor. Know, like, and trust you. And so once they know, like, and trust you, then it's a lot easier to get them on the phone. One of the things that Bill Lewis, I heard him say it 3 or 4 times before it all of a sudden just hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, if you don't get people good at contacting, then you're never going to get anybody out showing the plan. And so a lot of times people we'll talk about from stage, hey, make a list, contact, show the plan. We'll talk about be part of the Club 180. But you know why most people don't go show 15 plans a month? Because they're scared to contact. It's not because people are lazy. It's because they're uncomfortable with the contacting part. And so a lot of times you have to go over and prime the pump maybe with a relationship, or actually help them build a names list, or actually see if they're making the contacts the right way, because most people aren't. Most people aren't. Especially if you've had a big business launch where a bunch of people show up and it's exciting, and so everybody just gets on the phone. Most people aren't using the script. They're saying something totally not script, but there's so many people there making the call that you get stuff out of it. And you're thinking, woo, look at how many people are good at contacting. This is fired up. And then what happens is those people go home, they scatter, and then no more plans are booked, or maybe a couple more plans are booked after that, and you're out showing plans and stuff like that, and a couple more plans are booked, but none of them are yet good at contacting. They just got caught up in the excitement of the business launch. They booked something, but they're not going to go home and book some more because they're still not any good at it. Does this make sense? And so you got to help people get good at contacting. So if you help people get good at contacting, then you can talk about the Club 180 program. But you can tell people to do Club 180 all day long, but if they're no good at contacting and get shot down on the phone 5 or 6 times, they ain't getting back on the phone. This makes sense? So it's important to have an attitude of service for the people that are on your team, to go over and build the relationship, actually help them make a list instead of manage them to make the list, instead of telling them to make the list. Feel free to show up in their house and pull out the little memory jogger thing and read. That's what rotate means. Make a list, contact, show the plan, follow through, rotate. If you listen to the DEP Pack, they talk about rotation. So that process is sometimes needed to get a grip. And in the past, I've found myself wanting to show plans, wanting to go out and build the business, but since it wasn't someone ready to show a plan right that minute, I found myself not necessarily in someone's living room doing something to set up plans for next week. By the way, if you want to be able to show 15 plans a month, you know how the easiest way to show 15 plans a month? It's not to make 15 calls off your own list. It's to help somebody else make some calls. Sometimes people are building second legs and they're trying to get out there and show the plan. They're like, man, I'm showing plans. I'm trying to show plans. I'm trying to make some calls, and I had 2 plans set up this week and one of them canceled, and I'm trying to build this side leg. And I don't know how you guys go-getter. How do you do all that stuff? Well, I go-getter by helping the ones on my team. I go-getter by showing plans for the new people. So if you're building a side leg, it's okay to still go in the taproot and help somebody that's in the taproot make a list, contact, and show some plans. And then actually you can get go-getter done a lot easier because you might have some cancellations yourself, but you've now duplicated yourself in that contacting phase in depth. And so these are kind of some fundamentals to the attitude of drive in depth or build in depth, because you got to have this attitude that you're willing to serve the team you've got before a new team is going to come your way. And if you don't figure this out as part of a game in the taproot, then you're not going to be able to figure it out in the side leg either. And so the first step is that, you got to be willing to invest your time in people. And you also have to have the right attitude. You might go over to somebody's house and you might never get them to do anything. That's okay. We're supposed to serve them anyway. That's okay. It's no big deal. It wasn't a wasted night. They might come around later on and think you're a really nice guy, and after you got 30 levels in depth underneath them, they might get on the phone and say, hey, it looks like I'm pretty good at this. I liked you last time you were here. You didn't put any pressure on me. I think I'm ready. Right? You might get that. So you got to have this attitude of serving your team in order to be able to drive depth, because that's what the leader does. And so let's say you've got this grip now through some of the stuff that I've just talked about. What's the next step? Well, the next step is if you've either set up some one-on-ones or you've done a contacting session. So if you're going to do a contacting session, whether it's one-on-ones or whether it's a big business launch, what you want to do is you want to go down to the bottom of the team, the lowest spot you can. You want to go to the lowest spot you can and set that contacting session, business launch up to the lowest spot possible. Don't force it into some spot that some person's not yet in. Usually it'd be a good idea they've been to Tuesday. Usually it might be a good idea they've been to a seminar so they got some belief. And you want to go down to the lowest spot possible and have a little business launch there, or even a little contacting session one-on-one, whatever you need to do, and you want to set up a house plan at their house. And you want to make sure it's successful by making sure that they make the calls while you're sitting there. If you say, yep, well, that's the script, so book some calls and I'll see you Sunday, guess what? Ain't no one showing up. This makes sense? And so you want to actually rotate the patterns, invest the time in helping them make the calls, invest the time in helping them make them get the script good. And this is a balance, because a lot of times what happens is someone's making calls and they're doing it the wrong way. Here's the best way to do that. Here's what I do. I'll role play with them, but I'll call them first. And I'll do it about 15 times. It drives them nuts. Okay. Because what I'm telling them is I'm not willing to deviate from the script. But if you have them call you and then they don't do it, now you got to sit there all night and correct them every time they don't follow the script. Make sense? And so you want to flip it around the other way first and give them a lot of examples of you calling them where you're sticking to the script. You won't change. And so then once they get out of the script, you say, no, remember I stick to the script. You stick to the script too? And you can just have them read it. Just read it. They get on the phone. Yeah, I'm ready to show you something. I'm like, I have the script right in front of their hand, and I'm putting my hand right there, right by the line, and no, read this one, business development, yeah, leadership development, right, yeah, details. wow, it worked. And so you want to help people do that. So let's say you're doing that. You're kind of getting that script taken care of. You got a house plan set up now. They're going to have a house plan. Here's the deal. You want all the other people that are over here that might be out building side legs, when they're out building side legs, they should bring people down to this house plan. That's what's supposed to happen. If you haven't helped anybody get good at contacting here, how many people you think are out showing plans for their side leg? None. None. So it helps to make sure that these people, if you do this process right, you get some people good at contacting. Maybe not everybody is going to do the Club 180 program, but no one's going to do it for sure if they're not good at contacting. So once you help them get them good at contacting, now you got someone that's got a potential to do the Club 180 to go show 15 plans. And especially if they're kicked down their side leg now where they can make some money. This person that's got to build a side leg, if you're building a side leg, here's the one thing you got to know. They are not going to follow you when you get started. You've got to, like you say you got a Raymond and Tina Abernathy's doing a house plan down here. When you get your first person started in your side leg, you need to promote this house plan like it's their key to financial freedom. If you know this person's dream, they say, look, I want to get out of my job. I want to quit what I'm doing. I can't wait to, build this business. And Raymond and Tina's doing a house plan down here. You don't want to try to get them to follow you as a side leg. You want to get them to follow Raymond and Tina. This makes sense? You want them to follow Raymond and Tina. So if you tell them about this house plan and they're not interested, you kind of look at them like, are you kidding me? Right? No, you don't understand. See, you can have Chris Brady and Orrin Woodward come in and we go bananas. We go off the cuff. I mean, we just go bananas to promote those guys and get everybody in here. You should treat a Raymond and Tina Abernathy just like that in the depth. Because they are. Because they are. They know 10 times, a million times more than that brand new person knows, and they need to be around the heat of them. In my example, they need to be around their heat. And so this is the way it kind of goes. The attitude is when you're driving depth, the attitude is when you're building side legs, because now you're the depth driver over here. The attitude is you want to make sure your new guy you're not hugging and squeezing and loving them. Your new guy gets around the heat of your moving on up line that's building depth at the bottom. That's another thing that you have to have. Sometimes when people start their side legs, they think, okay, I'm the man now, I'm the leader. You're not the leader yet. You're not the leader until it looks like Turbo 100 or something, or Turbo 50, or somewhere in there. That's when you're the leader. That's when people are going to start edifying you. And so this is your leverage point, because in my example again, you got Raymond and Tina, they're on fire. They're building some depth. They're doing something. You need your new guy around their heat. And so you literally promote it like it's an Orrin Woodward or a Chris Brady. This make sense? All right, so here's the next step. I'm going to talk about the squeeze. So you go and do a house plan. Maybe 5 or 6 people show up at the house plan. The rest of your team should be showing up at the house plan too. You're only doing the work to put people on their team. Hopefully they're there to show up and support them. And so you're doing that house plan. Maybe it's at the open meeting, but whatever. You're literally working on driving some depth. You got this house plan going. So here's how this works. When you're driving depth, you're the person that's taking personal responsibility. That's another attitude of a leader. I'm going to take responsibility for doing it. And so you literally draw out this chart. And this is called a squeeze board. Yes, no, maybe. And it's best if you can do this squeeze board systematically. So someone says, all right, well, I want the depth to go. I want to be the leader. I want to make the thing happen. I'm willing to go to someone's house and serve them and help them get on the phone and make calls. That doesn't mean you haven't made some calls off your list. You probably ought to, have made a good amount of calls off your list too. But you're going to drive some depth now. And so you're going to help this person have a house plan. And there's some people that show up. And what's going to happen is you've literally got now building material to drive some depth. And hopefully, you'll have some other people on your team that maybe you've got good at contacting. They've gone out and got some maybes. See, when you're brand new, there's 2 talks I'm giving here. I'm giving it for a brand new person. I'm giving it for a leader. When you're brand new, don't ever get caught up in your head. You have to be good at getting a yes. You don't have to be good at getting a yes. You just got to be willing to do the work of finding a maybe. I just got off the phone with a guy a little bit ago, and he says, Mark, I did all I could. I tried to get my mom involved in the business, but she wouldn't get involved in the business. She just doesn't believe it. I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. We've got 5 people that we're putting on your team this week. I said, but here's one thing I want you to promise me. You'll never let her tell you I told you so, because you'll always be willing to go out and get another maybe. Because that's all the new person has to be willing to do, is to go get a maybe. And when you go get a maybe, then it'd be a good idea to leave some materials. It'd be a good idea to have a solid follow-through time to get back with them. But you don't have to worry about getting a yes, because somebody like Raymond and Tina are going to go out and get the yes. The law of numbers is going to produce a yes, and then you need to use the yes to build off the squeeze. And so when I talk about the attitude of driving depth, if you're a brand new person, your attitude isn't, see, I'm going to use this example, and I do this all the time, A, B, and C. So if you're person A here, and you've got 2 other people that say, look, I'm going to go out, I'm going to show this idea, I'm going to run the play, I'm going to go out and do my 4 plans a week, that's 15 a month, I'm going to go do my 4 plans a week. You find 2 other people that are running mates with you and say, look, I'll cut my arm off before I won't come back with those 4 plans. I'm going to do those 4 plans. Here's what's going to happen. It's the attitude that I'm explaining behind it. Here's what's going to happen. Whether you got to go out and help somebody on your team make calls, whether you got to dig into your names list and make calls, where you got to go meet some new people and make calls, you're going to come back with those 4 plans by the end of that week, and here's how it goes. So person A goes out and shows the plan, and the first plan they show is a maybe or a no. The second plan they show is a no. The third plan they show is a maybe, and the fourth plan they show is a maybe. Now, in a business that's built like this person A is very discouraged. In our business that's built like this, what I see is person A is still very discouraged because they don't get the power of depth. They go in with this defeated attitude as if like, oh, woe is me, no one said yes, bummer, this thing isn't working, I suck, oh, I'm not going out next week through this torture again, this is awful, oh, my mom told me I wasn't going to be any good at this, my team's not showing any plans, oh, my wife doesn't believe in me. They got this attitude, they need to adopt a team attitude that a leader has instead of an individual. It's not about self. It's about team. Watch. So person B, go out and show the plan. B1 is a no. B2 is a no. B3 is a no. B4, maybe. Same process. B guy's like, oh, I'm no good at this. I showed 4 plans this week. They said this thing works. How am I going to get in 15? If I can't get somebody to say yes this week, 15 for the month. Oh, whoo, man, I don't want my money back. Well, it might be a good idea to pick up a stinking book, by the way. See, if you can build a lot of depth without reading a book, I'm going to be ticked off at you because I had to read a lot of books. And you might be thinking I need to read some now. But feel free to read some books because someday it would be nice if you could get a yes, but you don't have to worry about that yet because person C, maybe it's Raymond Abernathy, and he goes out and shows the plan. Trust me, he's going to get a no too. He's just not going to wet his pants over it. But he's read some books, so he only gets 1 no. And C2 is a maybe. C3 is a maybe. But for crying out loud, C4 is a yes. Now, when you're there showing the plan up here and you're person A or B, if you don't show up with the right attitude, they'll smell it on you. Here's what you have to know. I'm part of a team of people. This is the attitude of a depth builder. I'm part of a team of people. They're not going to let me down as a team. We're going to get a yes, and we're coming back and we're going to get you. Now, you don't say that, maybe, like as in get you. I mean, but in your head, you're not there worried about if they say yes. You're getting them in a process. People get wigged out because they can't go out and get the yes. And then people smell it on you. They're like, you don't believe in this thing, do you? You don't. Well, trust me, I don't believe in me, but I believe in my team, and this thing's going to grow, right? So here's what happens. In the traditional model, if Raymond got the yes, and this is Raymond over here, if this is Raymond, this is person C, and this is person B, and this is person A, all this stuff goes to waste. People don't understand how powerful team approach is. I get so fired up every time I talk about this and every time I get in this process of implementing this. So person A and person B, in the traditional business, they have a right to have a bad attitude because they stink and their team can't make up for them because they don't have one. On Tuesday night, I talked about this business is me heavy and team light, doesn't matter. But this business is you light and team heavy. And so here's where it makes a difference. So in this business, the only contribution is C4. Woohoo, Raymond can do it. All right. Woo, Raymond, go. See, A and B don't really give a snot in that business. Yeah, it's nice to be cordial. It's nice to think that good job, Raymond and Tina. You did it. Now you proved that we can do it too. But in this business, it's totally different. Because you guys were loyal to the play of Club 180. What happens is Raymond gets the yes. And Raymond communicates. See, driving depth is a high-level communication. You ever get people you send a text to and you have no clue if they really got it or not? I don't want to communicate. Well, you're never going to be a leader if you're never going to communicate. You got to spread the enthusiasm. You got to spread the excitement. You got to get this stuff contagious in people. Because this is very exciting that this person said yes. It could be a Scott and Angie Balla, right? And so the first thing that happens when Raymond gets the yes is he's going to get on the phone. He's going to call some people up, and he's going to say, hey, listen, I got some really exciting news for you. Let me tell you about this couple. And he's going to communicate it to A and B because they need to know it. They need to know who this is. Yep, this couple's name's Scott and Angie Balla. They live in Shattuck, Illinois. Angie's a nurse. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Scott, he's fired up. Dude, man, he's excited for financial freedom. Angie told him if you can get enough money to get groceries, you're going to do this. But she came to the seminar, and they said the prayer there. She got fired up. She says, we're all in. This is a great couple. And you're communicating this, and everything I've said is true. You're communicating this to these two people so they can feel the enthusiasm, the excitement. Don't be silent about your plans. Share the positive and the excitement. You might have some maybes over here. Hey, I went out and showed the plan, and they're not in yet, but they're a maybe. I got me a pre-app. You know, you fill out the pre-app. And then what happens is Raymond's going to call this person right here. And this person might be Chris and Marcia. And so, by the way, Chris and Marcia were squeezed in. Scott and Angie were squeezed in. What I'm teaching you is what squeezed leaders in. How many of you people were squeezed in? How many people are wondering what the heck I'm talking about, squeeze in? Here's the squeeze. Here it goes. Here's what I'm teaching. So you got Scott and Angie over here, okay? Scott and Angie, okay? And so Raymond's out here. This is Raymond and Tina, okay? Person C. They've got Scott and Angie. And so what they do is they call up Chris and Marcia Robinson. Now, here's what I say. Call up Chris and Marcia. Hey, Chris, this is Mark Haas. Remember we showed you the plan the other day? Did you get a chance to listen to those CDs? Well, it doesn't really matter. I've got some market share to give to somebody. And because when I was at your house the other day, you convinced me you wanted to get out of debt. I want to come over for 5 minutes and draw it out and show you what it is. And if you want it, I'll give it to you. If you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else. And guess what Chris and Marcia say? I'll be working until 10:30, but you can come over after that. I'm not kidding you. This is how it went. So guess what? We're in here, okay? And so then after 4 hours of argument, Chris and Marcia get signed up. Chris wants to go to bed, so I was ready to go to bed too. So, right? And so they get signed up. So then guess what Raymond does now? Calls up C3, same thing. When I show up, when Raymond shows up to talk to Chris and Marcia, what do they say? They talk about Scott and Angie. See, this is the fear of loss. Remember Chris Brady was up here just talking about fear of loss? I create the fear of loss with Scott and Angie for Chris and Marcia. I talk about how fired up they are. I talk about all the positive. I'd never say something that's not true, but I know enough about them because I've spent 2 times getting to know them in a showing the plan or a follow-through, that I know enough about them, that I found enough positive, enough exciting things about them that I believe that they can do this, and I'm going to promote that to Chris and Marcia, and I'm going to create fear of loss. I'm going to, I remember being in a promotion down at Chris Brady's house, and I learned this stuff right here. When I learned this stuff, everything changed because I was so excited. I had a leverage point. Instead of putting one person in at a time, I was going to start putting 6, 7, 8, 9, 17 is the biggest person squeeze I've ever done. And I know 17 is not that big. I know people have done many much bigger than 17, but here's how you do it. And so I remember being taught when I was at Chris Brady's house as a Turbo 50, and I think Scott Balla was there. He was at this exact same meeting. We were down there hanging out with Chris, and one of the guys there that was really good at this, he said, sell the sizzle. What's the word sizzle mean? Some people are trying to sell droopy dog, man. Right? Like, this is not a corpse here that you're trying to give to Chris and Marcia, right? This is something exciting, right? You're fired up. You came back to do what you told them you were going to do. Your team was so good at this, it doesn't matter if you're good at it, your team's good at it. So you came back excited, right? Attitude of a leader, attitude of a depth driver. You come back excited. By the way, you were excited when you left the plan, even though they said no, because you knew you were going to come back with this guy because your team's that good. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. So you literally take that person and you squeeze Chris and Marcia in on your enthusiasm and the positive attributes that Scott and Angie Balla have. They won't want to say no because they don't want to lose somebody that good. Then what do you do here? You go talk to this person. This is Larry Cheatham. Right? Larry, I don't have time. Right? He's a fireman. His schedule's unpredictable. You know, he's a businessman. He's got real estate. He's got all kinds of great reasons to not do it. But he doesn't want to miss out on Chris and Marcia, and he doesn't want to miss out on Scott and Angie. He says yes now, too. See, in this business, that doesn't mean anything because no one's going to be able to use these contacts to squeeze with these. So all that stuff would get wasted, but it doesn't get wasted now. It's raw material for you building depth. Maybes are important. They're very important. The worst thing in the world that could happen is your leader could go out and get a yes, and he'd say, all right, team, all right, we got a yes, fired up. Where are the maybes? Who's got any maybes? And he hears cricket, 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 cricket. Well, maybe I'll put this yes in some other team where there are some maybes. You follow me here? If you were on a team, if you had the yes, if you had gotten the yes and you had 2 teams and one team wasn't doing any maybes, they weren't doing Club 180, and you had another team where there were 5 people doing Club 180 and they had 24 maybes on the table, where would you take that yes? It wouldn't be a personal decision. You wouldn't be upset with your team or anything. You'd just be like, look, my job is to make this thing grow. I'm the leader. I want to show people this thing works. And so I'm going to take that yes and put them over here where all the maybes are. Now, so remember the attitude of a depth driver? Now, by the way, don't take this specifically, that specific maneuver as counsel. Okay? When you get a yes, you talk to who you're working with and how to counsel where you should place that yes and where you should use it as a squeeze. I want to give you the attitude. If you're brand new in here, and you guys have done Club 180, I totally get that, but the attitude is we're going to go out and we're going to get a maybe, we're going to get 4 a week for the rest of our life. Because when someone gets a yes, I don't want to waste that yes. I don't want it to grow by 1. I want to make sure I'm one of the guys that makes sure it goes by 100. And so what do you do here? So now you got Larry Cheatham in. He's a fireman. He's excited. He can't stand the fact he's got his real estate all over the place, whatever. And he come back here, and who do you talk to now? You talk to Josh and Annie Dames. Right? Same thing. Now you got all these people. Now you're squeezing. You got 4 people. And the excitement starts to build. Like, you're kind of getting a little fired up about it. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I kind of see how this game works. Really cool. We got 1 yes over here, and we had all this raw material to build our house. We needed all these maybes. We needed someone to bring the wiring. We needed someone to bring the 2x4s. None of them can build a house by themselves, but because we got a yes, we're all of a sudden now able to start building this house. And you squeeze them in. You just keep squeezing them in. You just go backwards and run through the whole thing. Again, the worst thing is someone goes to gets a yes and there's no maybes. The maybes mean way more than the yes. They mean way more. But somehow everybody if you have an attitude of a depth driver, you understand this. The maybes mean way more than the yes. Growing by 1 is not exciting. Growing by 7 or 8 at a time is exciting. Growing by 13 the next time is exciting. Makes sense? So, a depth driver, someone that's going to be a leader, all you got to worry about is just go out and show your plans, just like you've been doing. All you got to help people understand, it's not important that you get a yes. It's just important that you show up on the court and run the play, and the play's Club 180. That's it. And this is what you do. You literally take all that yes, and turn 1 yes into 2, and 2 yeses into 3. And guess what? Then you can go squeeze in the no's. By the way, if anybody ever says no, here's what you say. Don't say no, say maybe. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, that's cool, but don't say no, just say maybe. Just say not now. Just say maybe, just don't say no. Just say maybe, just say not now. Don't be a firm no. You don't know enough to say no. Yeah, because you don't have to say yes right now for me to be able to offer you something really, really big in a couple days. So just don't say no. And so then you can come back and squeeze them in. And you're still going to get people that say no and don't do it. But you see, now guess what? You all of a sudden just drove depth. And now you've got D and E. Literally, if you can think about the leader this way, if you can think about being the leader this way, every person you get involved here, you're literally trying to help them do Club 180 just to help them find 2 people. And the depth driver then can help these each find 2 people. What a lot of times people want to do when they're driving depth is they want to find somebody to do the depth for them. I don't ever want to find somebody to do the depth for me because it's the slowest way to build the business in the world. You're all looking at me like, how could that be, Mark? Here's why. If you'll take responsibility for running the squeeze board and orchestrating this Club 180 thing, what happens is, as you're driving the depth down here, you're freeing people up over here to start second legs. But if you're trying to make this guy do the driving of the depth, he's not freed up to build a second leg. Where do you think he tries his hardest? Over here. Where do you think he tries his least? Down here. So the more depth you can drive in a spot, if you're the leader, attitude of a depth driver, the more spots you free up to go do this. And so what happens, if you focus on running this squeeze board, you don't have to do all the work yourself. You got 3 or 4 other people that are committed to doing some stuff, going out and show a few plans a week, and then you orchestrate driving in depth. Well, now you got a whole new group of people here. What do you think you do? You get with one of them, you book a business launch at their house. All these people that are now over here building side legs because they've contributed their 2, and you put 10 deep underneath them. These guys act like maniacs to get them down to your house plan down here to make it big and exciting, and it's easy to drive this because you're doing a house plan. If you're ever short on being able to get a lot of accomplished here, you can always go down here and help one of these people make some calls so you can add the depth to the squeeze board. It should never be hard for you to show 15 plans a month unless you're only thinking, how do I make money in my second leg? It should never be hard. You got a whole team of people, they're brand new. There's 10 of them in there. If you go 10 deep a month, if you go 10 deep in 2 months, there's 10 people in there. Pick up the phone. It doesn't matter if you know them. It doesn't matter if you brought them in there. It doesn't matter if the person that brought them quit. It doesn't matter. They're on your team. They're a circle. They know 100 more people. Man, it's a lot easier to show off of their names list than somebody's names list that is gone. And so it's just a matter of going over there and meeting them and getting to know them, loving, care about them, find out what their goals and dreams are, and moving to the next step. It's not hard to show 15 plans a month if you're willing to go down and serve the ones you got. Otherwise, no one's over here is going to come over here. This makes sense? So if you'll take care of driving the depth, you free up people to build side legs. And so you can be doing 10 deep a month down here by pulling off the squeeze. You see how you do that? You get 3 people that are willing to show 4 plans a week. You get 12 plans a month or a week. 12 plans a month times 4, 12 plans a week times 4 plans is 50 plans almost, 48 plans. There's no way in the world you'll ever convince me that with 50 plans in a month shown that you can't go 10 deep. Not with this squeeze. You can put 25 of them in if you're bad at it. The maybes are so important. They're so important. So mentally, a brand new person or somebody that just went Club 180, you might be thinking, man, I just did a whole bunch of plans and no one got signed up. I did a lot of plans, no one got in. You don't have the attitude of a depth driver. You're not working as part of a team trying to pull off a squeeze. You don't have enough heat on you. Once you get the squeeze going, people get kind of excited. You ever been part, like so all of a sudden you get a text and man, another one signed up, another text, you get a phone call, hey, things rock and roll, hey, we got another one squeezed in, hey, so-and-so got started. Like all of a sudden the excitement builds. You almost have to create that for yourself before the squeeze is going on. The attitude of the depth driver understands, I'm going to make this squeeze happen. I'm out there showing some plans. We got a bunch of maybes on the board. And you'll have a bunch of other people that are out showing a plan or two. Oh, somebody brought somebody Tuesday night. Like we had somebody come to Tuesday night 2 weeks ago. I was in there on the follow through. The guy got sick. He called, and then he called the guy that brought him to Tuesday. I got in on the follow through at the open meeting, and then when I got in there at the follow through, I wasn't the person that brought him, but I figured out how to get in on the follow through. He got sick. He called the guy that did bring him. The guy canceled on him. Our follow through was gone. He didn't have one rescheduled, but I had the guy's number because I got it at the open meeting. So the brand new guy doesn't have the ability to squeeze him, so what do you think I did? He canceled the follow-through. I got 4 contracts. I called him up and I said, hey, Jamie, this is Mark Haas. Remember I met you at the open meeting the other day and we were supposed to get together? I know you got sick, so you had to cancel that follow-through. Well, man, I got something really excited. I got a chunk of market share that I got to give to somebody, and I thought of you. You got 5 minutes that we can sit down and go over the details. If you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else. What do you think he said? I got tomorrow morning free. He's only ever been to a Tuesday meeting, and he's never seen anything. When I showed up, he was a no. He was a no. I'm sitting at the table this morning. He's a no. I didn't want to know. I wanted a yes. He's a no. Guess what I did? Pull out the applications that I had to squeeze them with, set them right there on the table, open up the next step brochure. Look, I'm only asking for you to enroll. Hold your spot, 30 days, 4 Tuesdays, a Saturday seminar tomorrow, and I got 4 people to put on your team. You can't say no to that. And he didn't. And he didn't. He didn't say no. His excuse was time, but I handled that objection a different way. That's a whole nother talk. So, but I squeezed him in. It was because that person had a maybe. They were a maybe and brought him to Tuesday night. And mentally, in their head, they had shown 4 or 5 other plans. Not 4 or 5. They had shown 3 other plans between last week and this week. And mentally, in their head, they were defeated because they hadn't got a yes. But as soon as I got on the phone, called this prospect, and squeezed him in the next day, this morning, what do you think? He was excited? You need to have that excitement without the yes. The attitude of a depth driver is you have that excitement without the yes. Because if you just keep the excitement without the yes, you're going to get a yes. And even if you don't get it, your teammate will. And if you have the droopy dog attitude, then you're going to spread that to your teammate. If you don't do the Club 180, then neither will your teammate. And so you need to have the excitement without the yes so that you don't defeat. I was sitting down with somebody else, and they're like, man, I was somebody that's been in for a month or two, and a brand new guy, and we're having dinner together, and the guy that's been in a month or two, he's like, man, I just think people are avoiding my calls. Like, will you shut up? I'm trying to help your new guy think that this works. Man, it's just, I don't know. I made a bunch of calls. You know. It's all about him. It ain't about him. He doesn't know this. I'm not trying to beat up on him. I'd never say his name. I'd never point him out. He's not here tonight because he didn't do Club 180. But the point is that his attitude's going to affect the brand new guy. He looks up to him. Wait a minute. If you don't think this thing works, then it ain't going to work for me. Well, it's going to work for both of you because I'm going to drive enough depth underneath it to get that droopy dog off your face. All right, we're done here. Go find somebody that will show the plan, and go. So this makes sense. So the attitude is really important. So you need to be together as a team. It's not about you. It's about a team of people. We're pulling the play together. Someone's going to get the yes. When you get the yes, you walk through here and you start squeezing those people in. And that gets everybody's attitude. Now, not everybody's going to have the right attitude. Not everybody's going to be plugged in the system. Not everybody's going to be reading all the books. But that's the leverage point for those who aren't like that. For you, the leverage point is you just go out and get the yes, and you have excitement, and know that because you're part of know that because you're part of this team of people, that the team's going to produce results every time. The play will work every time if you just run it. And so you don't have to be good at getting the yes. You just have to be good at making sure you have maybes. Sometimes the maybes are going to come from the calls you make. Sometimes they're going to come from the fact you got a few people bringing people to opens. Sometimes they're going to come from the fact that you went over to some stranger's house that's on your team. You didn't even know them, but you had the courage to call them up anyway and go have a cup of coffee and get to know them and find out what their goals and dreams were. And you didn't produce anything specific that night that would be driving depth that night, but you set up a relationship that was going to allow you to serve that person in a contacting capacity that they would know, like, and trust you now, and they're going to let you into their names list to show their sister. I'll give you a perfect example. Chris and Marcia, the person I got Chris and Marcia involved was a relative, and I showed plan after plan after plan. This was a huge discovery for me. And I was probably mean to most of them I showed the plan to. I probably didn't relate to them very good, most of the people I showed the plan to. And we showed a bunch of plans and literally got a bunch of no's. I mean, it was just no, 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 no. It was just no. For 2 months before we ever went and talked to Chris and Marcia, we showed a bunch of plans together, and we didn't get maybe but one person that got signed up. And then something happened that we had a few yeses, and it wasn't because we had a few yeses that we actually went over and saw Chris and Marcia. It was just I had shown enough plans with that person that I had won their trust. And I'd been doing battle with them, that they were really now ready to show me to the people who were going to be the real deal. And it was during the whole time it frustrated me that we weren't getting any progress, that I'm showing plans for somebody that's not leading me to anybody, but in my opinion was, not anybody that was looking at that time. And a lot of it had to do with me, I'm sure. But then when we got to Chris and Marcia, they were the person that's the real deal because they're roundtable members. And so I learned something about my attitude in those moments, was that it was okay to become their best friends running the roads, doing battle together, because that's what happened. And then once they knew, like, and trusted me, they were actually willing to let me show their best people, and their most ambitious people, which you guys obviously know how ambitious Chris and Marcia Robinson are. So calling somebody up that isn't necessarily going to show you a plan for you tonight or take you to show a plan tonight is not a wasted night. It's an invested night. It's invested in another human being that has goals and dreams just like you. And it can set up a whole process that does eventually get you in a position to find a yes, so then you can pull off a full squeeze. This makes sense? Again, this is about the attitude. So a couple key points that I wrote down here that I thought Oh, communication should be high. If you're part of a depth squad, communication should be high. Obviously, you've got new Lifeline now, so the ability to use Lifeline probably should be your primary tool of communication. I'm still adopting to that, even though I fought really hard for it. I'm still adopting to using that as my primary form of communication now. But when you've got a yes, you really need to call these people and tell them specifically. So disseminating all the information to your team probably is a lifeline. But when you're dealing with depth squad people, or you know people have got maybes out there, by the way, if you're the depth driver, you should know every maybe that's out there. You should know every maybe that's out there. I was drawing little circles. I had all the little maybes on my piece of paper, and then I had all the yeses, and I'd take a little picture of it, and I'd send them out to the people. I'd say, all right, here's all our maybes, and here's all our yeses. Let's squeeze some more maybes in there. And I had a name by everybody that actually had the maybe and figured out how to get in there and get involved. So if you're the depth driver, you know all the maybes that are on your team, and you know all the yeses that are on your team. You know who's got who. You're communicating with them. Hey, what's going on? How do we get in there with Mom? Hey, remember that contact you brought Tuesday night the other day that wiggled out on us? How do we get back in there with them? And if you can't get a hold of them, by the way, you should always get the numbers of all these other people. You can do that on the pre-app. Someone fills out a pre-app, you keep the pre-app. You're the depth driver, you're the leader. You get the pre-app, you can call the person right back up. It doesn't matter if the person that led you to them calls them, well, I don't want to step on their toes. Their toes might not be around in a couple weeks. It don't really matter. You take that one yes and you put 7 people in or 10 people in, their toes are feeling good. They got happy feet, right? This makes sense? You're the leader. By the way, do enough of this so that they know you're the leader and they're not worried about it. They're like, you take my prospect, go ahead. You just put him in, go on. You're good at this, right? And so communication's high. The reason communication's high is because you should let the excitement rub off on you. Rub off on the rest of your team. Share the enthusiasm. Even when you got maybes, call people up. Man, I just showed the plan to his doctor, and all I know is he can't stand being in debt. He's still in debt. And the other thing I know, he can't stand working all the time. He didn't sign up yet, but I'm kind of excited about it. I know if we get a yes somewhere along the way, we can go back in. I don't know if it takes 6 people to squeeze them in or whatever, but I bet you we can squeeze them in. Other people, I showed a doctor. He ain't looking. He's got a big house, nice car. He wasn't ready to do it. No. He doesn't have everything he wants. He's got everything you want. Right? This is how more people are attracted. You don't get excited. So inspire the troops with excitement. Go house to house. House to house. House plan's always down the bottom. Take brand new people. You just squeezed a whole bunch of people in. Great. Get them to the open meeting. Get them some belief. Make sure you get them here. And then now you got a new spot to do a house plan, a business launch in. You have a house plan. You do a business launch. You invite all the troops down to the bottom of the house plan. This person, if they just got 1 or 2 people that show up, it's no big deal. You're controlling the whole atmosphere because you got 6 or 7 other people on the team and 2 or 3 of them have brought prospects. And by the way to get your team around the most fire is to get your team down the deepest spot that's having a house plan, because your house, the guy that just pulled off the squeeze is probably kind of excited about it, And so then you bring your prospects down there, and then they see the plan. They're like, man, this is fired up. I don't know about you, but I like that guy on the board. I'm going to do this, And so then that's how you build the business. Get good at getting people contacting. Don't miss that step. I explained that early. If you just run over people and say make the calls, that's management mode. By the way, I've done this a lot of times, I'll tell you. But there are certain times I didn't do that, and there are certain times I sat on with people and made the call. And I'm pulling off a squeeze right now. And there are people that just got back on. They've been to Tuesday a couple times. They didn't go to the major. They were going on a cruise. It was already booked. They went on their cruise. They had some mission stuff going on too. But I literally, Rita and I took last Friday night, I think it was, and we went over their house. And we sat down, and we helped them get 200 points, and we taught them the script, and we got them on the phone. And they got on the phone. They made some calls. And after making some calls, they got some no's, but they got one guy that said yes. We booked an appointment, went and showed them the plan, left them the first night pack, brought them to Tuesday night yesterday, did a follow-through on Wednesday, took that one yes and started squeezing everybody in. That's how it's supposed to go. But here's what I know. If Weed and I wouldn't have gone to their house and role-played with them and had them get on the phone, he was shaking in his boots making the call. And she's there, come on. She's correcting him the whole time. Come on. No, you're not doing it right. Like, shh, you come over here, honey. Now I'm just shut up. Good job, Chris. You can do it. Yeah. And he's making the calls, and read the script. And he did it, and he booked the plan. And so now, the other part is give the credit away. Give the credit away. So when this guy is yes, his name's Luke. So Luke's a yes. So guess what we do? We call up Chris and Julie. Hey, man, great job. Awesome. This guy's got in. It's all on your credibility. Right now there's a whole bunch of people piling in the team. It's all because you got the yes. Great job going out there, and you got 2 or 3 other maybes. We'll go put some of those guys into. Let's figure out how to get back in there with some of them that you showed the plan to. And so we're giving them the credit away. That's the other part of driving depth. Give the credit away. Attitude of a leader, they don't need the credit. They're going to give it away to somebody else on the team. Your job is to produce people that can go build side legs. If they're not competent and they think it's all because of you, they'll never have the courage to go build a side leg. Develop competence and confidence. You want them to think they're rock stars. They're going to need that to get that second leg going. They're going to need to feel like a rock star. If you take the credit like you're the rock star, guess what? They ain't going to feel so confident out there in the side leg. Now you just killed 10 levels in depth on the side for free because you had to have all the credit. Give the credit away. That's what a leader does, give the credit away. Get the activity as deepest at the bottom as possible in terms of house plans and business launches. And if you're building a second leg, make sure you get your people around the heat of that house plan or that deepest spot. And you almost just look at your people and give your head a shake like, you got to be crazy. You have an ability to get around Orion and Sarah Fronick. You have the ability to, no, you don't understand. You said you wanted financial freedom. The people that are teaching people how to do that, that are specifically accomplishing that, they're doing a house plan down here. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't get you in front of them. It's not me that's going to help you become financially independent. I'm not yet, but somebody like Orion and Sarah Fronick are going to teach you. They're the same people that are teaching me. I need to figure out how to help you get over your obstacles and get there and meet these guys down at the bottom. That's how you do it. God bless you guys. Mm-hmm.